Okay, that's you live.
Thank you and good morning, members. Welcome this morning on the 1st of September to Wigtown Area Committee. Our meeting is being recorded and the recording will be made available on the Council website for public listening. Could I remind members the good practice guide, which is to mute microphones when you're not speaking and switching off your video when you're not addressing the meeting. Should you wish to contribute any items, you should write speak in the Teams chat function. I'm conscious that I'm going to be chairing this meeting remotely and there are members within Wigtown County Buildings, so I confirmed with Claire who will take over that role of writing chat if members in the room don't have access to the chat function. Should your question or issue be raised by a previous speaker, please withdraw your request. And just to remind you that the chat function should not be used for contributions or questions that are material, or should not be used that are material to the debate. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member on Teams has to leave the meeting for any reason, can I remind you to either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time, or you can write leave in the Teams chat function and then join, and this will allow us to monitor members' presence. So item 1 is our sedern and apologies and the Chair's approval of remote participation. Well, considering I'm remotely participating, I do approve of such things. So, yeah, Claire, do we have the sedern and apologies, please?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I can confirm we have 4 members present in the county buildings today, being Councillors Ingalls, McCammon, Macomb and Scobie. We have, as well as yourself, we have Councillor Surtees on Teams, and we have apologies from Councillor Sloan. Councillor Giusti is also an apology. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. You wish to make at this point? Councillor Scobie, are you wishing to come in?
Yeah, item 7, Chair, family member.
Okay, that's noted, thank you. Are there any other members wish to declare? No, okay. So we'll move on to item 3, which is the minute of the meeting of the 5th of May. Hopefully all members have had a chance to look through the minutes, and if we're happy to approve that, do I have a proposer?
I can propose, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Surtees. If we're happy to approve those, that's fine. Actually, I'm looking, it's actually just for noting, so thank you. Thank you, Councillor Surtees. We've also got the minute of the 10th of June, and that one is for approval. If we could have an approval on that one, please.
I can approve that one as well, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. So our first substantive item on the agenda is the Scottish Fire and Rescue Services Wigtown Area Annual Performance Report, and that's for the 1st of April to the 31st. We've got Joe Shepherd on the call here, and one of his colleagues. I don't know who your colleague is, Joe, but I don't know if there's anything you wish to add to the report just now.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for letting me present the report. It's myself, Joe Shepherd, as usual, and Susan Maxwell, who leads our community action team. So if you've got any particular questions about what we do in the community, she's the expert. So not really, Chair. I would like to highlight a couple of things. If you could give me a couple of minutes, if that's all right. Yeah, just.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, it's good to. I would just like to sort of pull out the report that it's good to see again that accidental dwelling fires are continuing to reduce. We will keep a focus on this because I don't know whether you saw managed to pull out the appendix. We're still in Wigtownshire showing the highest rate per head of population of accidental dwelling fires. So although we're managing to knock the numbers down, we will not be losing focus on this, and we'll keep it going. Sharp reduction in RTCs, not to be unexpected due to hardly any cars being on the road during that period because of the COVID restrictions. But we are seeing an increase in affecting entry to premises and giving medical assistance, which is a new focus that's become kind of business as usual over the last wee while. So we will continue with that, and I see that continuing to increase as we protect people and we diversify our work. Probably the biggest issue we've had over the last, well, including the short report from April to June as well, is the increase in deliberate fire setting that we've noticed. Through the COVID period, it was quite varied, and we kind of looked at it, and with people spending so much more time at home, the extremely good weather that we had, people were sort of burning grass, burning rubbish, and we sometimes get called out. Not all of them are malicious. But we still class them as deliberate because somebody set the fire intentionally, whether it was burning rubbish, but we still sometimes have to go if it becomes out of control or becomes a nuisance. But we have identified some antisocial behaviour around the Stranraer area in particular, focused on a couple of areas, and we have done, we basically through the multi-agency meetings, we set up regular patrols to sort of try and identify any issues, and we provided the schools with sort of information on deliberate fire setting, which seems to have had the desired effect. From June onwards, we haven't seen any further occurrences of that type. So that as far as the stats go, that's as much as I want to say. I just would like to highlight it has been a difficult 18 months, but we have through the hard work of our retained duty system staff have managed to maintain we're operational cover throughout, and as you know, it's not a full-time job for these people, so they have given their commitment to us. We have put things in place to protect people as much as possible, but obviously with attend incidents, they're increasing the risk to themselves and the family. So I would just like to note, if you don't mind, the dedication and commitment that they continue to show, and I'm sure we'll do into the future. The other thing that I want to just finish on is we are having a consultation at the moment on how we respond to automatic fire alarms, which are fitted to industrial premises in the area. The services that in Wigtownshire, we haven't seen a major increase, and in Dumfries and Galloway, it's about 20% of our call, but across Scotland, it accounts to about 30% of our call list, if you see what I mean. And so the service has decided that this can't continue. Some of the figures are quite alarming when you actually look at it. We attend almost 30,000 calls of automatic fire alarms, and 97% of them are false alarms, which we class as unwanted fire alarm signals. So the service has been through a process of assessing how we can better deal with this type of incident, and with now within a 12-week consultation period, which is for staff, partners, stakeholders, and the public. I'm looking at you. I'm hoping you're aware of this, because we're supposed to be we're supposed to have communicated this out to you as a committee, but I'm not sure whether you have at all. Have you received any information about that as a committee?
As a committee, we haven't,
Right.
but we can make sure that that's highlighted. And every week there's a members briefing that goes out, which has all the consultations. So
Right.
I'm assuming that it will be in that, because
Right, okay.
there's a huge amount of consultations happening.
Yes,
so we get a weekly update, but
right.
maybe the other members might want to come in at some point.
I'll make sure I send an email just to point the secretary in the correct direction. So it's just really to highlight that, and the service is going out in consultation. They have done a lot of work already, and we've come up with 3 options basically. There isn't a preferred option, but we want the whole of the public's opinion on how we go forward to reduce this type of call, because it is we can direct our staff much more efficiently to have a bigger impact and a better impact on our communities. The only thing I also would like to say is I think the audio visuals are fantastic. I'd like to just sort of commend the person that's at the end of the camera and the mic, it's very clear and very good. So thank you for that. And if you've got any questions, we're ready for you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Joe, and also thank you, Susan, for the work that you're doing in the background. I think on behalf of all the members of the committee, I think we would reiterate our thanks back to yourselves and to all the hardworking members of your team, because it has been a very challenging year, 18 months, as you say, and certainly the report that you've you've brought to us today is a really positive report. As I say, you've highlighted some of those issues that the stats are looking really good. And I mean, I say this, I think every year, Joe, when we get the annual reports, the way that it's laid out is brilliant, you know, and the fact that we've got the year on year and the 3-year average and the 5-year average, all the data has been compiled in there. So, you know, it's made it really easy to look through and gather the information so we can see a snapshot of what's been happening. So just our thanks to yourselves and to your teams for all the hard work you do. But I've got Councillor Ros Surtees who's looking to come in. So Ros, can I bring you in, please?
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks a lot, Joe. That it is a really excellent report, and I'd echo what the Chair has just said regarding thanks to all your staff at a very difficult time. I realise that the large fire that recently happened in Stranraer, in the building just by the library there. I just want to say thank you for everything that you did that day and the massive and immediate response of your staff. I know it was an extensive issue at the time and that it will probably be covered in the next report. But Joe, I just wanted to say thank you very much for containing what could have been absolutely catastrophic, and all the other services that were involved as well.
Thank you. I was there as a responding officer and spent a few hours there. But to be fair, it was the incident plan and the tactics and had already been put in place by the local firefighters and under an awful lot of pressure, as you say. So I will definitely pass that on. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rose. Do you have any other members who wish to come in at all? I don't see any hands up or typing in the chat.
We've got Councillor McComb who would like to come in, Chair.
Councillor McComb, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at page 25, special service casualties year to date. Have you any comments to make on the difference in the gender profile of casualties? There seems a marked preponderance of male casualties.
That's across Dumfries and Galloway. Locally, we didn't have a tremendous lot. In fact, I don't think we had any over that period. But I think that would be due to people driving the cars, the predominance of maybe young people driving the cars. And Susan, have you looked at them stats at all?
We look at the stats sort of daily and check up and see if there's any trends and everything like that. And there really wasn't in this particular case that we could identify with that. So no, sorry.
I think the predominance would be sort of you probably see more young males driving cars and more males driving cars. And I think that'll be sort of a norm across Scotland, although the figures were quite low. As far as attending special services out with RTCs, there isn't a tremendous lot. Like if we go and assist somebody in their home, I don't think there's a lot of difference in that. It will be more down to attending RTCs and the people that are actually in the vehicles and sort of that predominance that maybe young male drivers are maybe more at risk than the other profile. But if you wish, I will dig into that a little bit more. I'll be fair, I haven't dug into it because it wasn't really a Wigtownshire issue, because we've hardly had a casualty in the area. But I can ask my colleagues and see if they've got any more information for you if you wish.
Thanks, Joe. So basically, just a reflection of the gender of drivers.
Yeah.
More male drivers on the road. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Can do that.
Thanks, Joe. Is there anybody else that wishes to come in? Otherwise, we can go to the recommendations. Oh, Councillor Ingalls.
Thanks, Chair. And Joe, thanks for a well-detailed and set-out report. On page 35, 311, it mentions recruitment and the difficulty we have in recruiting at rural fire stations. It goes on to say that there are 3 candidates currently progressing through the recruitment process, but it doesn't detail where they're going. Can you tell me what the position is at Newton Stewart and Stranraer fire stations regards the number of firefighters that we have or that we're short of at those stations?
Yeah, sure can. We currently have 19 firefighters at Newton Stewart, and an ideal profile would be 20. But some of the firefighters can only provide a limited cover, so we're looking to push establishment to 21 people. We have 2 people who've applied and will be moving through the recruitment process quite soon. It's one of them things that has been a very, very difficult thing for us to progress. It's quite an onerous recruitment process, probably a lot of it for a very, very good reason, because once you're in, you're expected to do some fairly extensive tasks, but we do lose probably about 50% of candidates through the process. So and we are finding it difficult to get people forward. So Newton Stewart is sitting at 19. We've got 2 people in the process. If we can get them to, that would take us to our preferred establishment. Stranraer at the moment are sitting the same. They're sitting at 19, and we have 2 people that are due to attend a training course in October who got through the process. So that will bring Stranraer up to standard. Wigtown and Drumore are 2 sort of most difficult areas. The employment in the local area, obviously they have to live and hopefully work within a very, very close proximity to the station, so they can get there within the 5 minutes. So it's very difficult to attract people in that are available. So we're sitting at 8 at Wigtown with 1 person that's applied. So we'll be starting to progress them through the system very, very shortly. And at Drumore, we're sitting at 6, and we've got 1 person within the process and 1 person that's applied. So it is a continuous battle, I would say, how I would describe it. And like I say, it is quite a difficult, onerous process to get through, because the level of fitness required, the medical standards required, the sort of practical skills that you need to demonstrate to actually get into the service are not easy, but they're not easy for a good reason, because it's not an easy job. When 90% of the time we stand on the end of a pager and wait for something to happen, when that pager goes off, they're expected to be almost superhuman. So it's not an easy process for the right reason. So yes, it is a continual effort that we put in locally, and we will be upping our efforts in the community as the COVID restrictions lift, getting out and about and trying to meet the public face to face, as well as sort of posters and adverts and all the rest of it, to try and attract people in. But it is a constant effort that we go to throughout D&G, not just in Wigtownshire, and in particular the sort of more rural stations that we have. Hopefully, does that answer your question?
That's great. Thanks, Joe. Yeah.
Thank you.
We've got Councillor Scobie now, Chair.
Thank you, Claire. Councillor Scobie, do you want to come in?
Could I bring you back, Joe, to page 20? Is it 25? Aye, 25. Unintentional injury or harm, and there's a number of there, and it's all highlighted as to where perhaps the RTC has happened. Do you do anything, Joe, in respect of the A77 and A75 in terms of the number of accidents, or are you able to dig out in all those figures there how many are attributed to the A77, A75? There may not be a lot on the 77, given we've only got some 7 miles within the constituency of Dumfries and Galloway, but there is the full stretch of the 75. Do you dig out any statistics, or could you dig out any statistics in respect of these accidents happening on the A75? And a further question is, if they are high in number or severe, do you make any representation to the Scottish Government in terms of the condition of the road and whether it's suitable for the type of vehicles that use that have to use the roads on a daily basis?
We look at statistics all the time, and where incidents occur. On this occasion, just because of the reductions in the low numbers of vehicles on the road through the reporting period, we haven't seen a major impact on the 75, but the 75 has the highest number of incidents as any road, simply because it's the busiest road we've got, and it carries all them heavy goods vehicles and stuff like that. But I haven't made representation. Road traffic investigation and representation would be done through the Road Safety Partnership, and that's where our avenue would be to try and reduce incidents, and any representation to Scottish Government, I assume, would be through that partnership, which obviously includes police, who obviously their investigation, especially fatal incidents, is much more in depth than we would do.
Is it possible, Joe, for you to find out that through your other source that you just referred to there, and whether any representation has been made, on the 75 over the last year, because this is an annual report?
Yeah,
so
I will do.
We can have some indication, and what the serious effect was, not only on humans, both male and female, but also the road. And just on that,
I will do. Like I said, I'll get in touch. We have a seat on that Road Safety Partnership. So anything that comes from the Road Safety Partnership, I'll get access to, and I'll see what's been put forward in the last 12 months.
And just on the point of dedication and commitment, Joe, could I thank the team from Stranraer? They still got involved in community events, and they did put in a team to the alternative Lowland Games. They didn't win, but it was good to see them, and the commitment that we still get from the fire services.
Yeah, Stranraer are very good at that. I don't know whether you picked up on in any sort of local communications. They also did a charity cycle ride, and put in a national team to raise funds for breast cancer, and they covered them. I think they covered the most miles in the whole of the UK for their team. So they are particularly active that way in the community in our Stranraer, yes. Thank you.
Thank you both. I just wonder if it's worth maybe highlighting to members that we do have a specific Police, Fire and Rescue subcommittee within the council. So if there's representations coming from the Road Safety Partnership, Claire, are you able to confirm the delegation on whether that would go through the Police, Fire and Rescue subcommittee? Because clearly the police and fire departments, they work closely together on this one. And I'm aware that Councillor Scobie is a member of that committee as well. So, do you know, it would be useful
capable of taking it there as well.
Oh, sorry, I can hear.
I'm capable of taking it there. We were dealing with an annual report, and I was asking the specific question in the annual report, and it would be good to see that coming through. I did hear
that. I'm just trying to chair the meeting remotely here. So if you wish to speak, if you can type speak. I was just highlighting to all the members of the committee who don't sit on that we do have that annual subcommittee. So if Wigtown Area Committee has specific requests, would we make that to the Police, Fire and Rescue subcommittee?
Certainly the Police, Fire and Rescue subcommittee look at the figures and the reports for the whole of Dumfries and Galloway, so that anything raised could be picked up there. But if there's anything specific Wigtown area based on the report, then the members here can certainly ask the questions.
Okay, thank you, Claire. Right, shall we move to the recommendation, members? I don't see anybody else looking to come in. So our recommendation is to scrutinise the performance of the report in front of us. We've also got the role of the scrutiny as detailed in 3.4. So I think we can safely say that we have looked at the report and asked pertinent questions. So thank you, Joe, for that. Are members happy to note that recommendation?
Great. Happy to note, Chair.
Thank you. We're still with the Fire and Rescue Service on our next item of the agenda, item 6, which is a quarterly performance update. So again, we're being asked to scrutinise the performance report, and that is from the 1st of April 21 to the 30th of June 21. So I don't know if you've got anything that you want to add to this, Joe or Susan.
To be fair, Chair, nothing really. I mentioned the deliberate fire setting and the trend in the Stranraer area, which I'll apologise. It probably rose itself more in May and June of this year, which covers this report. So I kind of covered that, which was the main issue.
Thank you. Do any members wish to come in on this one? I don't see anybody coming in. Obviously, we have talked about the issues that you've highlighted there, Joe. And again, my question would really be, we don't normally get a quarterly report. Is it because you were coming with the annual report that we got a quarterly report as well?
Being totally honest, it was requested of us through community, through your administration, and I think it was. I'm assuming it's the first time we've been asked to do this in my tenure here in 4 years. So I'm not sure why it was asked. I was assuming it was coming from you guys. I must admit that you were requesting some more up-to-date information. I think in some respects it's useful for us because we're generally reporting on information that's relatively historical, if you see what I mean. Although it's important to cover the period that we haven't seen yet as such, but it was really just, for me, it was a snapshot of what's been happening and a bit more up to date.
Yeah, no, I think it is really useful, so thank you. And when the requests come in, it's brilliant that we actually get them coming through, so thank you for that. If there's no questions from members, I think if we just move on to recognising the scrutiny of the first quarter update, and are members happy to note that recommendation? Happy
to note, Chair. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, and yeah, have a good day. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Joe. And once again, just thank you so much to you and your teams for all the hard work that you guys are doing on the ground. It's really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass that on. Thank you. Bye.
Right, members, if we move on to item 7, we are looking at the Wigtown Area Community Tackling Poverty and Inequalities Grant Funding. So the funding is an opportunity for us to work with the communities that are making a real difference to the quality of life for local people and helping address the very basic needs. Our community groups have done a terrific job in helping communities remain resilient through the past 18 months. And it's something that we have talked about in both council and in our respective committees. The communities across Wigtownshire and across Dumfries and Galloway have just been incredible. So if we can help support those that are looking to tackle poverty and inequalities, I think it's a really important issue that we need to do. So there's various points that we're looking to note. So we'll be noting the £50,000, the eligibility. We want to consider the scoring panel's recommendation, and we will finally move on to consider and agree how the remaining of the poverty and inequalities budget should be allocated. But before we get on to that, Ingrid, is there anything that you wish to add to the report? And then I'll open it up to members.
Thank you, Chair. I have nothing further to add to the report.
Thank you. Councillor Scobie, I've got that you wish to come in.
Yeah, Chair, and I have declared an interest, and it's in the Fed Up Cafe one. Notwithstanding that, Chair, I just want to make a comment before I have to leave the meeting, and I then will ask you to see how you're going to deal with a particular report. But what I would say about the report is I'm seriously concerned about it, because there's a lot of inconsistencies and inaccuracies in it, and I just wonder how the scoring works out to the percentages that are awarded. I'm conscious of the fact that there are many the organisations that we have before us today some are desperate in need of the money. So, you know, I was of a mind to defer the report until the inconsistency and inaccuracies are sorted out. I refer to, in that one, the furniture project, and I applaud the furniture project, as I have in the past, for the amount of work they put in during lockdown to deliver the thousands and thousands of hot meals to the community. And there's reference in the summary, which is not in, to that fact, that is not in the application. So there's an opinion there. So there is. And that opinion doesn't carry through to the other organisation, because many here think it was the furniture project that prepared the meals. So in that respect, that's inconsistent, you know, to make that opine when it doesn't refer to the other organisation. So that's why I have on my mind to say, let's get these things sorted out. There's reference in the report to duplication when one's doing 2 and one's doing 5. Different client groups. That's misleading in the report of what the organisation actually do. And then we're about to award money and perhaps not what the organisations have asked for. So I am seriously concerned about the report in terms of the information we are being provided with in the report. And it talks about going back out for dialogue, but yet, you know, reducing. I'm conscious of the fact that I have to declare an interest, Chair, and I'm in your hands in respect of how you're going to deal with this report and my declaration of interest, how you're going to deal with that, because I want to make a few remarks on the others. As I say, I'm of a mind to ask for a deferral, because I don't think that the report is to the standard it should be.
So just in response to that, Councillor Scobie, your declaration is entirely up to yourself. It lies with you. It is not for me to decide whether you should remain in the meeting or not, and that lies with yourself. I will check with governance on that one, because my understanding is this is not my responsibility to say whether you should remain in the meeting or not. That lies with you as an individual. In terms of deferring the report, I'm not minded to defer the report, and it's something that has been raised many times in this committee. And as you pointed out yourself, there's organisations that are looking for this money, and the quicker we can get the money out, the better it is for our community. I do appreciate what you're saying. I don't have applicants' forms in front of me, so I don't know what you're referring to, because you're speaking to information that's not in the report. So you make reference to what is on the application forms and what's in the summary. We don't have the applicant's forms, so I don't know what you're referring to. So in that respect, I can't comment. And in terms of the inconsistency, we do have the scoring panel's recommendations. I'll maybe get Ingrid to confirm who sits on the scoring panel for information and clarity. But on page 65, there is the scoring panel recommendations, and it has the scoring panel table there. So for those that score between 75 and 100, they would receive 100% of their funding application. 50 to 74 receive 75, 25 to 49 is 50%, and 0 to 24 receive 0. Now, to me, that is entirely consistent and fair, and my understanding is this table, this allocation, is actually replicated right across the Communities Directorate, and it's what in fact makes it fair and equitable, because if we were to start amending the scoring panel recommendations out with that, we would then be in danger of it not being an equal or level playing field. However, I will bring maybe Claire first in to confirm in terms of members' interests and where that responsibility lies, and then I'll bring Ingrid in, and then I'll come back to you, Councillor Scobie. Thank you. Claire.
Could I come back, Chair?
No, if I can hear from Claire first, Councillor Scobie, and then Ingrid, and then I'll come back to you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, clearly the declarations of members' interest is a matter for the councillor, taking into account the provisions of the councillor's code of conduct. When it comes to dealing with award of grant funding, when declarations of interest are in the mix, there's obviously different approaches sometimes used, which sometimes committees go through each individual application, which obviously leads to members who have declarations of interest leaving the meeting or coming out of the meeting sort of midway through the item. Sometimes committees choose to look at them en bloc with no detailed discussion, then you don't get into that mix with declarations of interest, but really it's a matter for the committee and how they handle the report.
Thank you, Claire. Ingrid, are you able to come in just to confirm who sits on the scoring panel, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to point out that at paragraph 3.7, it details there that the scoring panel includes the lead officer for the fund. Sorry, not that I kind of lead on it. Basically, that there is representatives from third sector, Dumfries and Galloway, health and social care, the Tackling Poverty Reference Group, and other council officers.
Thank you, Ingrid. Just before you come back in, I can see you waving there, Councillor Scobie. I know in the past that as the Wigtown Area Committee, we have looked on block, and if the committee is happy, I'm happy. I think it would seem entirely reasonable, looking at the way that this has been allocated on the scoring panel's recommendation, that I'm more than happy to look at it en bloc. If we're not going in to be discussing individual applications, again, that's up to Councillor Scobie. But yes, Councillor Scobie, do you want to come back in again?
Yeah, thanks, Claire, for your advice to the Chair on how to handle it. But so that it's totally clarified, I declared an interest and made the point I would have to leave. I already made that. I don't need anybody to tell me what to do or guide me on that one. I have declared an interest. It now is in terms of how the meeting is going to handle this, whether they do take individual items, and I would need to leave on the one that I have declared an interest on, or whether you're going to take it in block, where I would not then need to because there is no discussion on the item in particular reference. I hope that's helpful to you, Chair. I need now how the meeting is going to conduct the business on this item.
So as I've already said, I'm happy to take the items en bloc, but I'm also looking for other members to come in and give me any thoughts if they want to look at an alternative way to discuss this. So does anybody else wish to come in on this item?
Councillor McCammon.
Councillor McCammon.
Thanks, Chair. It was just a quick comment, really, not dissimilar to Willie's, Councillor Scobie's, but I think I mentioned before, I don't think it was at the previous meeting, yeah, I was here in June, about the scoring sheets. I out with the area committee meeting, I spoke with Wendy and she's kindly sent me an example scoring sheet. I do have, and I know it's how it works, but I think if we are being asked to consider applications of substantial amounts, and this is a personal opinion, I would like to see the scoring sheets, and that's not to scrutinise the process, that's not to change anything, but purely information in front of us, because that would maybe dispel a lot of what kind of issues that Councillor Scobie's having. So, not really an answer to Willie's question, but that's a request from me going forward, is if we're going to have a certain amount of information, I would like to see the decision that it's based on, just for information, again, not to scrutinise anything. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor McCammon. Yes, in the past we have seen those scoring sheets for individual applications. That has been made a request and that's been made available to us. Ingrid, can I ask, does that normally go out as part of a committee report, or can that be provided separately, or what's the situation in terms of that detail? Because obviously we have got who sits on the scoring panel, and I appreciate that there may be levels of confidentiality, or there might be other information, but as Councillor McCammon points out, if we're basing our allocations on that data, it's useful to have as full of information as possible.
Yep, thank you, Chair. My understanding is that the scoring panel is part of the process, and that officers are asked to undertake, and colleagues within other services are asked to undertake that duty, so that we can then come back with recommendations based on what the discussions and the findings were within that process. Everything is documented, everything is there. I would need to seek advice as to whether I can present that more widely or not. I hope that's helpful.
Okay, no, thank you. As I say, I know in the past we have had that information, because I raised that very point myself that Councillor McCammon has raised. In the past we have seen the actual figures and how we came to, but there wasn't a whole lot of information in there. It wasn't attributed to names, etc. So I know in the past that information has been shared, so if it's possible, I think that would be helpful to the committee. Before, in fact, no, I'll come to Councillor Surtees. Do you want to come in, Jos?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think this is a bit of a conundrum for Councillor Scobie, because he's clearly mentioned a consideration of unfairness, or a concern about the report. And I think if we are to scrutinise that or those applications individually, then that does put Councillor Scobie in a difficult position about a conflict of interest. And if we take the applications en masse, then he is able to stay in the meeting without having a concern. When I came into the meeting, I would have been very happy to take them en masse, and for all the reasons that have been discussed. And I appreciate yourself, Councillor McCammon, saying that it would be useful to have that extra information. I'd find that very useful. So it's a dilemma, because we could discuss them all individually, but then now I've heard a concern and that has been aired, then I want to find out more about it. But the person with the information is Councillor Scobie. So I'm not sure if that's very helpful, but I do think if there's an accusation, not an accusation, but if there have been concerns aired, then I would want to know more about it. But governance would have to say how we proceed with that concern.
Thank you, Councillor Surtees. I don't know, governance, do you have any advice, Claire, in terms of how we proceed with that? I mean, I have to admit, we have got in Appendix 2, we've got the scoring sheets, and we've got the applicant stated project summary, we've got their project outcomes, we've got the scoring panel comments and the award recommendation. So on Ros's concerns, or on the back of Councillor Scobie's concerns, if there's a specific one there, I think it would be for members to go through each and every one, and if there's a concern there, we can raise that. Obviously, if we're doing that, Councillor Scobie, as you said, you would be leading the meeting. So it is, as you say, Rose, a conundrum for us elected members to decide how we want to go forward. I'll just check with Claire if there's any other governance advice. If there's not, because obviously we're going round in circles here, and then I'll bring you back in, Ingrid.
Councillor Ingalls would like to speak.
Right, Councillor Ingalls.
Thanks, Chair. I think I would prefer to take these individually, and that would allow Willie to his declaration of interest to leave on that specific point. I've got some questions on one or two of the other projects.
Okay, that's fine. Ingrid, were you wanting to come back in on this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just to say that, you know, what is in the Appendix 2 in terms of the summary is reflective of what is in the actual applications which are presented to the scoring panel. So basically, word for word, all of what's in there is exactly what we have been given. in
Right,
terms of the
thank you.
application.
No, that's helpful. So just in terms of moving forward with the committee, I'm going to go to the recommendations just now. I'll come back to you in a second, Councillor Scobie. Our first recommendation is that we're noting the availability of £50,500 for distribution. That was agreed by Communities Committee. Can I just confirm with members that we're happy to note that recommendation?
Happy to note, Chair.
Thank you. In terms of recommendation 2.2, we're noting the Wigtown Area Committee Tackling Poverty and Inequalities Grant Fund eligibility, criteria and priorities as contained in Appendix 1. Are we happy to note the criteria?
Noted.
Noted,
Thank you.
Chair.
So 2.3 is to consider the Wigtown area scorings panel. I've heard, obviously, Councillor Scobie from Councillor Surtees and Ingalls, and the consensus, I think, if I'm reading the room correctly, which is hard to read a room when you're online, not in the room, is that we'll look at these on an individual basis, as highlighted by Councillor Ingalls. So are members happy to go, and we'll proceed with looking through those? Councillor Scobie, you were wishing to come back in.
Yeah, Chair, reference to the remarks made by Ross on that, I again find difficulty in terms of my declaration of interest, but nevertheless, notwithstanding that, then my concerns are to some of the language used in the report in terms of duplication, additional dialogue and so forth, and yet we're here to consider an application. You know, if that dialogue is needed, it needs to take place so that we know whether there's duplication or whether, you know, it's right to consider an application from any source. And that is my concern. And I've made my concerns known in terms of what is opinion, because as Ingrid did point out, that the applicant's stated project summary is in essence the applications that were made, and there's no reference to that in the furniture project. And again, I would applaud them for the amount of work that they have done, but they didn't prepare the meals. And I'll leave it with members to ponder that statement when you look at other applications. So again, Chair, I'm pleased to see the meeting is going to take them item by item, and then we can discuss.
Happy to support going item by item, Chair.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Surtees. So if we progress on that point, if members are happy to concern, or Councillor McComb, are you looking to come in? The camera is coming round to you, although I don't see a hand or a speak.
Thank you, Chair. It's simply to endorse the proposal to discuss these items individually. Quite honestly, I don't see how you can discuss it en masse without making reference to the individual applications.
Thank you, Councillor McComb. So on that point, if we move to the first application, which is reference W001, and that's the applicant for Apex Scotland. If we look at the scoring panel recommendation, the score award was 89 points. The amount requested was 10,000, and because of the 89 points, it came out as 100% recommendation. So the recommendation award is £10,000 for that one. I'll open it up to members to raise any questions. Councillor Surtees, were you wanting to come in?
I was trying to put my hand up there. Yeah, I agree with this. I think it's a very strong application, and I would support that we give them the money that is recommended.
Thank you. Councillor Scobie.
Yeah, Chair, I know in here that in the applicant's stated project outcomes that they can access a hot meal twice a week, and in others I think it goes beyond that. I'm not sure if duplication refers to this in another part of the report, but I don't regard what the Apex Scotland do, and again I would applaud, they deal with a particular client group in terms of offenders and rehabilitation, and they do it's a soup kitchen as opposed to a three-course meal. But again, I would applaud and totally endorse and support the application. But there is things to consider for the committee going forward.
Thank you. I am aware of the scoring panel's comments, and it does refer to this project will be greatly needed when the planned reduction of universal credit goes ahead. And certainly for those of you that are aware, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation has published data just this week on what a devastating impact that is likely to have within our region. So certainly I would also follow the recommendations of this one. So unless there's anybody else that wishes to speak on this particular item, are we happy to go with the recommended award?
I was just going to come in, Chair. Is that possible?
Yep, I've got a hand up. I'm not getting speak from members in the room, so if there's frustrations from members within the room, can they please indicate to Claire that they wish to speak so it can be typed in the chat, because I'm not getting any indication other than the camera spanning round. I saw your hand coming up, Councillor Surtees, so I will bring you in.
Happy to wait if there's someone in the room that was trying to indicate. Okay. Just wanted to support Councillor Scobie's comments about the work that Apex do, and I think it's really important that we provide as much choice as we can for people who need this service, because for whatever reason, and we might not always know or understand, people do have preferred places where they wish to go. So I think the duplication word is something that I would like to discuss more, but I do think like with anybody accessing any service, that choice and access for as many varieties of a service is really important when it comes to feeding people. So thanks, I support the application.
Thank you. Councillor McComb, you were looking to come in.
Thank you, Chair. Simply to remark that this organisation already have significant funds pledged from other funders, and I would be happy to support the recommendation.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to come in on this one? I don't see any indications. Okay. So we'll move on to the second application, which is for DG Handy Van, and that's reference W002. This total amount requested was 2,500. The award score was 66, which equated to 75% of the amount requested, and then translated to £1,875. We have the scoring panel's comments, we've got this project summary and outcomes. Councillor Scobie, I've got that you're looking to come in on this one.
Yeah, Chair, and again, good application. It's just to maybe build on what Jackie was saying. We have one that we've just decided scored 89 and got 100%. This one scores 66 and gets 75%. How, and it's a process, and maybe Ingrid could answer this. How is the process? How does the process work? Is it a threshold that you go beyond and then you get the 100% like this? Once you reach a threshold, then you get the 75. What is the calculation? It's very difficult to work out in my mind. Maybe others in the room that can do a better job. But how can you get 66 and get 75 and 89 gets 100? What's the methodology in how we do it?
If you look on page 65, Councillor Scobie, the table is above, in the centre of that scoring panel recommendation, and it's got the actual breakdown of how that works. So that detail is on the published papers on page 65. But Ingrid, I don't know if you're able to maybe do a breakdown as to how the actual scoring panel comes to the actual figure. What are the aspects that they look at in determining whether it's 66 or 89? would you be able to come in and enlighten us, please?
Yep, thank you, Chair. So the scoring panel come together collectively and they look at each of the applications. They then look at the scoring framework and they align that with the strategy. And that is, there's basically scoring where the scoring panel members will determine what they would consider their score based on the information that's presented to them would be. Those scores are then brought together and then they are divided so as that we get the cumulative score.
Thank you.
So divided by the number of members on the panel.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Scrooby, does that answer your question?
No, Chair, it doesn't. And I'm looking at page 65 and I see what you're referring to in the scoring panel records for September 21, and it goes 75 to 100 as a score, gets 100%, 50 is 74. It gives me the methodology, but I just would come back and support what Jackie was saying in terms of that we see the full report, you know, and I know Ingrid says she's going away to check with some other official to see whether we can get it. I'm making the request that we do see it, and there would need to be good reasons why we weren't provided with it. So I would like that the answer, because the 75 to 100, 50 to 74, 25 to 49 gets 50. You could fall into that bracket. That's my issue here. It seems very broad in terms of how you get to the score and in the methodology that's being applied. So I would like to see the full, how they arrive at the particular point, whether it's 75 or 25 or whatever.
Yep, no, I appreciate that. And I think if we can get that information to members, that would be very helpful. As I said at the start of the meeting, I don't feel that we should be deferring on that, because as detailed, the scoring panel is based on representatives from Health and Social Care, the Tackling Poverty Reference Group, of which is made up of those who are experiencing poverty. And this calculation, this percentage way of working out, while it may be unfortunate if you're close to one end or the other, it is a way of making sure that the funding is allocated in an equitable right across the piece, so to speak. I do have Councillor Ingalls want to come in, but I've also got Jamie Ferguson. Jamie, are you wanting to come in terms of a procedural point, or can I come to Dave Ingalls, please?
It's just really a procedural point, and not looking to cut David out. I'll be quick on this, Councillor Ingalls. Just to say that thresholds and kind of threshold barriers is a fairly common way of scoring budgets, whether they're national budgets or whatever they happen to be. But also, and I know members are aware, I'm not trying to teach my granny to suck eggs here, but there's a discretionary element in this. I think the scoring panel does their very best to provide, and there's always an element of opinion, there always is some element of opinion when you have a scoring panel, but the budget is as at members' discretion. So what the officers are providing is a guideline and a process to enable members to make decisions.
Thank you, Jamie. Councillor Ingalls, do you want to come in, please?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think this is a good project, and I support DG Handyvan and what they do. However, they're based in Lockerbie, and I have a question over just exactly how much work they do in the far west of the region, and I don't know whether, you know, that we can get a report back from DG Handyvan as to just exactly how this money's been spent, and where, you know, the number of houses that they actually go into and put these smoke alarms in. I think that we support them through the council anyway. They get funded through the council, and in the past I've had issues with the fact that, you know, they do get quite a large chunk of funding, but they don't quite manage to get over to Ward 1 and Ward 2. So you know, this is specific Wigtown Area Committee money, and I would like to know that, I would like to support it. I think it's, you know, it is an admirable project, but I would like to know just exactly how that money is spent and the number of people that benefit from it within our area. So I don't know if that's something that we can request.
Yeah, I would just say that the funding is to run a pilot project within Wigtownshire. So there is acknowledgement that they haven't been here, and it's maybe useful to get from Ingrid what the reporting, because we will get the end of year reports that we always get. And to get those specific points that you've requested, Councillor Ingalls, in that report, if we can put that request now to ensure that we do get that information, because you're absolutely correct. This is Wigtown area funding. We want to ensure that it's actually reaching the people of Wigtownshire. But Ingrid, can I bring you in, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to confirm that through the monitoring process that we have in place, that we would naturally be bringing back to you kind of March, May time, that we would be seeking, you know, the number of beneficiaries who would be benefiting from this particular project.
Thank you. Do you want to come back in, Councillor Ingalls?
Yeah, I know that we have had reports back in the past, but they haven't been very detailed or specific to certain areas. So, you know, it would be good to make sure that whatever reports we do get, we get a detailed report for Ward 1 and 2.
Thank you. So in terms of looking at this one, I'm happy to go with the recommendations and adding into what Councillor Ingalls has said to be fed back to the organisation would be helpful. But Councillor McComb, would you like to come in, please?
Thanks, Chair. A technical point on this. It states that the group's clients thought these alarms needed to be hardwired. Well, it is not simply the group's clients. It is a common perception that they need to be hardwired. I've spoken to a number of people and they are concerned about the potential cost of this. Now, if a much cheaper solution involving radio interlinking is available, that should be made widely known to the general population, because a lot of people are wringing their hands about this, considering the additional cost to householders.
Yep, I understand that point, and there's perhaps one that we should have asked Joe Shepherd to maybe expand on what the police service or excuse me, what the fire service are looking to actually dispel that myth that you've raised there, Councillor McComb. Is there any other comments on this recommendation, or are we happy to move to the award recommendation, which is 75% and £1,875?
Yeah, happy with that.
Happy with that, Chair.
Thank you, members. So we'll move on to the third applicant, which is reference W003, and that's the South Mackers Community Centre. The project title is a community fridge kitchen upgrade. And looking at our scoring panel's recommendation, the amount requested was £9,388. The score awarded was 55. The percentage, therefore, related to 75%, and that led to a recommended award of £7,041. I would open it up to members to see if they had any questions specifically relating to this application. What I would say, if I may, is although I'm not involved at all with the South Mackers Community Centre, I do see on social media that they are doing a huge amount of work and they're really taking advantage of the community centre. They have a really active community and they're reaching some hard to reach groups right down in the Southern Mackers. And I would commend all the volunteers that are getting actively involved. It's really wonderful to be seeing that centre flourish. But do any members have any questions at all? Otherwise, I'm quite happy to approve the recommended award, so to speak. Councillor Scobie.
Yeah, Chair, and I don't know the volunteers, but I would in totally endorse what you say about volunteers in the South Mickers and anywhere else. I do believe this project works in collaboration with another project in Wigtownshire, and they do work together as and when it is possible. Again, it highlights the very point that Jackie was making. When we have two organisations almost doing the same, this one scores 55, another one may score differently. It does question, the whole process, and we do need to see how the scoring panel get to this for us to deliberate, and it's very difficult without it. Again, I would totally support the work that it's doing, and it does get to people who are suffering from poverty, and it does give them a meal or some sustenance of food, and that's essential in terms of how we deal with poverty. And there are moves to do others there, bring in different projects, and again I would applaud them, because we're going to be suffering. I think Ward 1 and Ward 2 suffer from the highest deprivation throughout the whole of Dumfries and Galloway, and we need to make sure that we are able to get this to the families to at least make sure that they are fed, that they get a good meal each day, and this is one of the projects that's attempting to do that. I would support it, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Scobie. Councillor Surtees, would you like to come in, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd echo Councillor Scobie's words there. I think this is a really creative and helpful project, and I really like the way they're projecting sustainability so that they'll be able to support themselves. I think that's really important as well. So, yeah, I'd support it.
Thank you. Do any other members wish to come in on this one? Otherwise, we'll agree the award recommendation of £7,041. I don't see any other hands coming up. Okay, so that one is agreed. So let's moving on to the fourth one, which is reference W004, and it's the Fed Up Cafe, and their project title is Fed Up Community Cafe on the Move in Wigtownshire. Now,
Chair, I'll declare an interest and leave.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Scobie. I'll just give it a few moments. So the amount requested for this project is £10,000. The score awarded is 47, so that equates to 50% of the requested amount, and that would give an allocation of a recommended award of £5,000. I would say that the Fed Up Cafe do an incredible job. I had the pleasure of attending their opening event it'll be last month now, where users were coming back in, and they have been closed for a significant time. So it's welcome that they're opening again on this one. So I would open it up to members. I see Councillor Surtees, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chair. I totally appreciate that Councillor Scobie's concerns, and I know he has a conflict of interest, and I accept that. However, I do think we have to be very careful. I think all the projects that feed people in Ward 1, and I can only speak for Ward 1, work together in a fantastic way. They work together, they talk together about, within the bounds of confidentiality, of course, in a very, very professional way regarding the people that are using their service. And although we do have people using both services, I think it's very important that we respect the fact that people who are requiring this service and are having, they're vulnerable and they're having a difficult time at the moment, should have choice, just like anybody would. And I do understand as well that some people have preferences to access one particular service or another. At no question about their integrity and the service they provide, but access, we just don't know why that is, but it does happen. So I think we need to support all the projects. I think we have to respect and trust that they are working together incredibly well at the moment, especially since COVID. And I think, you know, perhaps we could have a workshop about how they're doing that. And I know that's also with the support of other agencies as well. So I would support this application. And I think the dialogue that we might have about encouraging them to have dialogue, they all access fair share and they do joint working.
Thank you, Councillor Surtees. I think it's a really important point because clearly the previous application that we just looked at the South Mackers Community Centre is a new organisation. They're looking to fill a gap within the Mackers, within the Southern Mackers, and obviously it says within the report before us that they have carried out surveys to see what they want, and there was results there. I would absolutely echo your point there that it would be helpful for members to know exactly what services are where and when and how are all these organisations working together, because we are just getting a snapshot at this point. And I think maybe if we can organise that as even a community event for elected members and invite representatives from all of the organisations that are looking to support our communities, I think that would be really welcomed. And I'll maybe pass that back to Ingrid to see, is that an option, or perhaps Wendy to take that forward as part of her role, looking at tackling anti-poverty issues and how we can progress. But Councillor Ingalls, I've got you coming in, and then I'll come back to yourself, Councillor Surtees, if that's okay.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, just one point. I mean, I think this is a good project, again, as they all are. It says they carried out a survey across the Mackers to see what they wanted and needed, and the results were overwhelming. The scoring panel, I would assume, it would have access to that survey result, and if they did, that would be of interest to me in particular, but to members of the committee, just to see exactly how overwhelming this is.
Yep, is that available at all, Ingrid? Did that form part of the application that was submitted?
It wasn't information that was submitted within the application, unfortunately, no. The scoring panel never got sight of that, the evidence of that, if you like.
Okay, no, thank you. And I think that would maybe highlight the point that Councillor Ingalls is saying, is we would like to have those conversations with the organisation so we can actually get a feel of, we could ask them directly those questions. I know in the past we have invited community groups to come and speak to area committee, and we just had one group at a time coming. But as I say, if that's something that is a potential that we can look to do in the future, I think it would be welcomed. Councillor Surtees, were you wanting to come back in?
Thank you, Chair, for letting me back in. Yeah, Ingrid, I'd be really happy to help with that or support in any way. And I don't know if it's appropriate for a ward event. I'm not sure about that. I don't know what's wrong with my camera and my buttons at the moment. I do apologise. But anyway, I am here. So thanks, Ingrid. That would be excellent. And thank you, Chair, for that.
Thank you. Councillor Ingalls, I can see you're looking to come back in as well. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. Yeah, just going back to that point, I really would like to see the results of that survey, just to get the figures. I'm surprised that the scoring committee didn't see that, because the application leads on that. It leads on that need for, and that's determined through that consultation across the Mackers, as they say. So, yeah, I'd really like to see that.
Thank you. And certainly looking at the scoring panel's comments, it does state that the fully identified maintenance and running costs, etc., don't appear to be included within the application. So I would, perhaps that would be reflective of the poorer score within that. That being said, they still received a score of 47, which is £5,000, and that is a significant amount of funding. I think that feedback needs to be gathered back. Do we not allocate because there's lack of information? I don't think that that's necessary, but again, I'm interested to hear what other members feel on this, because it's not my decision as such, but I think we have got a process going through here, and we can possibly address that in the future even. So Ingrid, you've got your hand up, and then I don't know if anybody else in the room is looking to come in. I can see both Councillor McComb and Councillor McCammon looking to come in. But Ingrid, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just to say that we've certainly had heavily involvement with the community food providers across the region throughout COVID. We have established local networks where the groups come together. So certainly getting a meeting with local members with those groups shouldn't be too much of a problem, and I can certainly look to get that set up for you.
Thank you. That would be helpful. Councillor McCammon, would you like to come in next, please?
I think Jim was first. Jim, do you want to go first? Or?
No. Yep.
Are you sure? Oh, he's being a gentleman. Thanks, Chair. Yeah, it was just following on from what you said yourself and both Davy about working with the community groups and meeting them. And I was going to highlight the point, like I said, Chair, that you highlighted yourself about the applicant not considering, the fuel costs and insurance and licences and etc. So it would question the sustainability going forward. I don't think it's a reason to reject the application, but again, it's another piece of information that members don't have, but we're being asked to award an amount of money. So I think this meeting itself has highlighted a few missing pieces of this process, certainly from members' point of view. But yeah, that was all I wanted to say on that. I would probably like to see more information on the work that they're doing on that part of it.
Thank you. Councillor McComb.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just a wee bit confused between the two stated aims here. Firstly, the mobile food unit, which would come round once a fortnight and provide free cooked hot meals. And secondly, a facility that would teach people how to cook and how to manage their budget. I don't think there has been sufficient clarification as to how these two aims are going to dovetail together.
Thank you, Councillor McComb. And I think all these points are the reason why the scoring panel gave such a low score. And, looking at all of this was the lowest scoring application came forward. What I would say is there is funding available. We're not using our whole amount to be allocated, and whether we reopen applications again, that we do have options to do that if we wish. We're being asked to make decisions on the information that's in front of us. I don't feel that I don't think it's appropriate that we defer the decisions, because I think it is important to get the money out the door as quick as possible. But again, I will look to other members of the committee to feedback on this. I'm happy on the scores recommendation to go with the recommended award of £5,000. If anybody has any other alternative, please say. Otherwise, if we're happy to agree that, I would move that we do so. Councillor McComb.
Chair, if we agree the recommendation, does that preclude the group applying in future for further funding?
Ingrid, do you have any feedback on that? I don't. My understanding would be it wouldn't, because this group has in the past applied for various amounts of funding from the Wigtown Area Committee. But I'll look to yourself, Ingrid, as the lead officer on this one.
I mean, certainly they're applying for they've applied for the £10,000 for this particular project, and we, as we said earlier on, it's completely at members' discretion about what figure is awarded to any particular organisation. In terms of coming back, that would they would be looking to see what was decided later on in terms of any remaining budget, and then what the group were submitting would need to be considered. It would depend on very much on what we're deciding, how you're going to manage that budget or any remaining budget, I would say.
Thank you, Ingrid. Councillor McComb, were you wanting to come back on that, just on that very point, and then I'll bring in Councillor Ingalls?
No, I'm quite happy with what I've heard.
Thank you. Councillor Ingalls, were you wishing to come in again?
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether it's within our gift to ask them to review their application to cover the guidance that's been put in to the scoring panel's comments. It feels a wee bit like we're sort of going off half-cocked here. That although it's a good project and it's worthy of support, maybe just a wee bit more time would have helped them to get it right and become sustainable.
So I would come back to the scoring panel comments, because that's what we're working off here, and it does say that it wasn't considered the ongoing fuel costs, insurance, certification, licence, maintenance costs to refer to second-hand ban. There's quite a lot missing within this, and I don't know how much support is available. Maybe Ingrid, you can advise of how much support is available to organisations. This isn't the first application that this particular organisation has put in, and they will have had feedback in the past. The other organisations would appear to have completed the application form and been able to fulfil some of those criteria, because it is a level playing field. They're all working off the same criteria. I don't know if there's feedback, and I'm assuming, and Ingrid, again, if you could confirm this, the scoring panel comments, will that go back to each applicant? Because we are on an annual basis. There will be more opportunities for funding in the future, and how much information and how much support is given to applicants when they're applying for these funds. I think that might be useful for members to know.
Yep, thank you, Chair. There's certainly ongoing support available to organisations through third sector, Dumfries and Galloway, and the local ward officers. So there is ongoing dialogue with those groups, and they're aware that support is available as well. So we certainly would be looking to support any further applications that this group wanted to submit. Certainly we'll be looking to support them in that, if depending on the situation that fills out any decisions that are taken around what's awarded today.
Thank you. I mean, just in terms of equity, I would be far more comfortable to be sitting with the award recommendations rather than opening it up and going back to the group. And the reason that I'm saying that is, if we open it up for one group, then we should be opening it up to all the groups to give them an option to increase their scoreability. So we would actually have to go back to the South Mackers Community Centre, to, well, the DG Handy Van, and then obviously we're still to come. Well, furniture project are recommended for 100% anyway, but if we open it up to one, then I feel in order to keep it equitable, we would have to open it up to all. So my recommendation, I would propose that we stick with the recommendation. But Councillor Ingalls, I see you wanting to come back, and then I'll bring Claire in, and then to Councillor Surtees.
Just a quick one, Katie. I presume that any request area committee for this funding, if it's granted, is conditional on them making the whole pot of money available for the project. Is that correct? At the minute, there's only their own funds that are confirmed.
Ingrid, are you able to confirm that? Yes,
certainly. Yep. I mean, we could certainly put that condition in to any award that's made. And again, I would just highlight that we would be looking to support that organisation to find the other money that they would be seeking in order to deliver that project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Claire, are you looking to come in, please?
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to confirm with you that yes, you're right, you do need to be even-handed in your approach. If one gets an opportunity to come back with more information, then others should as well.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Surtees.
Thank you for letting me back in, Chair. Yeah, I was going to echo your remarks. I think we should give them the money as stated, and then I think we should definitely work with them and see if we can support them with the concerns that we have. But I would recommend that the money goes to them because there is clearly a need there, and they have been doing a sterling job.
Thank you, Councillor Surtees. So if I don't have any other proposals from members, then we're looking to agree the application W004 for the award amount of £5,000. Councillor Ingalls, I see you're waving again.
Can we just be clear on this then? So the money is going out to them now, irrespective of whether they've got the whole package of funding in place, or are we holding the money until the whole package of funding is in place?
I think that's within our gift to decide that, if that's what we as a committee wish to do. Is that a proposal that you wish to put
That's
forward?
a proposal, Chair. Yeah, I would propose that we do support them on condition that they achieve the full funding package for the project, and Wigtown Area Committee will put in the recommended.
Okay. I would just again go back to that fair and even hand for all. If we're doing this for one, then I would feel that we should do this for all, because otherwise we'd be seen to be singling out a specific organisation. But I would like to open that up. I would like to hear from other members what their thoughts are on that. And I see Councillor McCammon, you're looking to come in.
Yeah, I would second David's proposal. If I'm not entirely sure I agree with the opening it up to all other applicants. We talked about discretion not so long ago within the scoring panel, and surely there should be discretion within the members actually awarding the money. So again, there's a bit of, yes, I absolutely want to see this money go to this organisation, but I want to see it be sustainable and be confident that it is. So £5,000 is a lot of money, and basically the scoring panel comments are scoring panel concerns in my view. So initially I was, yeah, let's get the money out the door, so to speak. But I'm a bit concerned about this application, just based on the fact that the comments are more concerns more than comments to be mindful of.
Thank you, Councillor McCammon. So before I bring Councillor McComb in, I'll bring Councillor McComb in, yes.
Thanks, Chair. It is the practice, certainly with two funders I'm aware of, to ring-fence grant money until the complete match funding package is in place. I've certainly had practical experience of this with the two funders who set aside money over a year ago and waited until the full package was there and then released the money. So it's not an unknown practice.
Thank you, Councillor McComb. So my thoughts, as I said, is if we do this with one organisation, I feel that we should do it with all. Obviously, Councillor Ingalls has put forward that motion, so to speak, and seconded by Councillor McCammon. I would put in a counter motion or an amendment to that we don't do that and that we just allocate the funds. I don't know if anybody wants to second that as such, but Councillor McComb, I don't know if you were supporting Councillor Ingalls on that one. If that was of that, or whether if anybody wants to second my amendment to that one, and we can move to a vote. I'm also conscious, just before I bring you back in, Jim, that Stranraer Common Good is due to start at 11:30. So, I mean, we're in the middle of an item here. I don't know if we can go through the final two, and then if we take maybe a 15-minute recess to allow that committee to start. I don't know if Claire, are you able to advise on that one? I'm conscious that if that committee needs to start.
Okay.
I'm also conscious that there's two members who are who are not available, I don't know if that meeting will even be able to go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And can I just address the potential vote here and say there is discretion, of course, on the amount that members can award, but we need to be fair and consistent on the process that we apply. So therefore, if one organisation has the opportunity to come back, then others should as well.
Thank you. Councillor Surtees.
Just two things. We have 1 minute to make a decision about the Stranraer Common Good because there's a time frame attached to that, but I understand that it might not be quorate. And on the second point, I would like to second your motion or your counter motion or whatever it's called, Katie.
Okay, thank you. So Stranraer Common Good is due to start at past. So is it within 10 minutes that that meeting has to sit? So we've got 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think we have 10 minutes from now, but I don't know if there's anybody there yet, and it's just Willie and myself that would be leaving the meeting. There is only one item on the agenda, but as I say, I don't think the Stranraer Common Good meeting is going to be quorate from the look of it.
Well, we've got 10 minutes, so we've got a motion and an amendment. My proposal would be let's deal with that just now. Councillor McComb, I am conscious that you wanted to come back in on that. So can I just bring you in briefly and then we'll move to a vote in terms of that condition applied to this particular application?
As I understood David's proposal, it was to set the money aside pending the applications to other funders. Is that correct, David? And I'm willing to support that.
Okay, thank you. So Claire, can we possibly move to a vote on this one? I think we know how it's going to go and that's fine, but just for the minute, so we've got a formal decision made on that one, please.
Thank you. Can I just be clear then? So we're not asking for more information before an award. You're basically awarding ring fencing or agreeing to award the 5,000 on with conditions. Yeah. So that's different from what I was saying before.
We're happy to support them to the recommended value on condition that the whole package of funding is in place to start the project.
Okay, right. So given that both the motion and amendment are actually agreeing the recommended value, Chair, is there still a requirement for a vote or?
I'll maybe double check with Councillor Ingalls. My understanding is the motion is that the £5,000 has a condition that will only be released once the full funding package has been confirmed, whereas my amendment is that we release the £5,000 regardless of whether the full amount is confirmed.
You're correct, Chair. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's my motion was that we support the recommendations on condition that the whole package of funding is in place to take the project forward.
Thank you. Yes, no, that's useful to clarify, just because there has already been other applicants that we've approved that we haven't applied that condition to. So hopefully, Claire, that makes sense.
Yes, okay, thank you. I'm in the picture now. Okay, so the motion proposed by Councillor Ingalls, seconded by Councillor McCammon to recommend the recommended award of 5,000 dependent on the full funding being in place, agreed. And the amendment proposed by yourself, Chair, seconded by Councillor Surtees, to award the recommended amount to the Fed Up Cafe, 5,000, regardless of the amounts being awarded from elsewhere. So going to the vote then, Chair.
Amendment, please.
Councillor Ingalls. Motion. Councillor McCammon. Councillor McComb.
Motion.
And Councillor Surtees.
Amendment.
Okay, motion's carried, 3 votes to 2. That's the 5,000 being released once the full funding is confirmed.
Thank you, Claire. Can I just confirm, Claire, in order to not, well, in order for the Stranraer Common Good to go ahead and not be, can we pause the committee in the middle of an item, because obviously we're still discussing this item?
We can adjourn at any point, Chair. The Stranraer Common Good Fund, as you correctly said, would need to start within 10 minutes of its start time. And again, if it's core, it would have the option of adjourning to allow this one to finish.
Okay, well, can I suggest, if the members of this committee are happy, that we do a 10-minute adjournment. We've been going for an hour anyway, so it's a useful point to have a comfort break for those that aren't on the Stranraer Common Good, and that we reconvene in 10 minutes. Are members happy to do so?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Claire. If we end this meeting on Teams just now, and we'll rejoin again at 1:45 and commence again. Okay.
I'm not sure of the status of Councillor Scobie. Is he intending to join the meeting? Where would the meeting be taking place if he's there in person?
I'm not sure, Councillor Surtees, but I will let you maybe deal with that and let you at least start the committee. Yeah. And if you're not core, then obviously then you won't be able to go forward. But just,
if you could inform Councillor Scobie, I will now attend the meeting and see what's happening as chair. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We'll see you in 9 minutes now, members. Thank you.
I'll leave for now. Thank you.
That's you.
Thank you, everyone. So after that short break in proceedings, we'll crack on with the report before. So just to confirm that we're on item number 7. Yep, item number 7, and we're now looking at the 5th application for the anti-poverty funding, and that is from the furniture project. So that is application W005, the furniture project within Stranraer, and their project title is Community Services. So the amount requested was £10,000. The score award was 78, which equated to 100%, and the award recommendation is to give them the full allocation of £10,000. So I don't know if any members wish to come in on this particular one. I don't see anybody other than, oh, Councillor McComb, are you raising your hand there? Yep.
Just to say, I would be happy to approve the recommended award.
Yep, no, that's great, thank you. And yeah, I would also look to support that, and just also congratulate the furniture project on, you know, a good application and the really positive work that they're doing within the community. Councillor Scobie, are you looking to come in on this one?
Thank you, Chair. And again, just to echo your sentiments there, that the furniture project or the community reuse shop are doing a tremendous job, and it's well laid out in the application project summary. I would totally support the application.
Thank you. So unless I hear any other voices coming forward, then we've agreed the award recommendation of £10,000 for that application. So moving on to the final one, we have reference W006, which is Dumfries and Galloway Citizens Advice Service, and their project title is Ethnic Minority Communities Project based, well, brackets, Wigtownshire. They have got a total amount requested of £10,000. Their award score was 59, which equates to 75%, and that would equate to 7,500. So I would invite any comments from members on this application, please. Councillor Surtees.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I absolutely support this, and I think, especially in view of the present situation in the world, that we may be experiencing a higher need. I think perhaps we could have scored them higher, in fact, but I'm happy to support the application as it stands.
Thank you, Councillor Surtees. Absolutely. I mean, I think in terms of where we are in the world and the events that are unfolding across the globe, I think it's the services that Citizens Advice offer are absolutely incredible, and they do a sterling amount of work. Councillor Scobie, I see you're looking to come in again.
Yeah, Chair, it's just on the point being already made, and I got in terms of what's happening in Afghanistan and almost the evacuation from there. I'm not sure if that was not available to the panel or the scoring panel at the time, but again, it's that figure that they have come to. What I believe was known, and maybe Ingrid could clarify, but we already had at the full council a presentation from ethnic minority group, and it was known what the council's position is. So again, I question the score and whether we should be granting the 100%. And I would move the 100%, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Scobie. As it has been said, in order to remain for an equitable decision, I'm happy to stick with the recommendations. I do believe that I would hope that with the global issue of Afghanistan, that the council will be doing all we can to support the national position within this, and if there's more funding needed, then I would hope that the council and both our Scottish Government and the establishment in Westminster take forward that responsibility, as we all have as global citizens. I don't feel at this point that it would be appropriate for Wigtownshire Area Committee to know what requests are going to be required in the future. So certainly my recommendation or my proposal is that we would stick with the recommendations before us today, but obviously invite any applications in the future to support those families, those individuals that would be welcome to resettle in our region. So I don't know if any other members have any comments. Councillor Ingalls, I see your hand coming up.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, when you read the scoring panel comments on this one, you know, it's very short, to the point, and very, very supportive. And yet they scored quite low. And I take Councillor Scobie's point here. You know, you do wonder why it scored so low, and it would have been interesting to have the background to that. And another question I would have is the recommendation that we're being asked to consider here. Is that just a recommendation, or given the fact that there are funds available or unallocated funds available, is this something we can review as a group, or would we need to get that background information to review that?
Ingrid, are you able to advise at this point, please?
Sure, thank you, Chair. Yeah, it is at members' discretion. There is, budget available, so you could decide if members were minded to award more than the recommended amount by the scoring panel. Yeah.
Thank you, Ingrid. Just before I bring you back in, Councillor Ingalls, on Ingrid, on David's points, in terms of, and it's a point that we've discussed about if we had the breakdown of how those scores, that does make the decisions much easier. But is it, in terms of reaching those scoring panel points, is it perhaps because this only fits one of the criteria of the anti-poverty funding, whereas other projects maybe tick multiple criteria, and that then bumps their score up? Would that be an appropriate comment to make in terms of that?
Yeah, within the scoring framework, there's various elements, and each of those elements would get a score from each of the scoring panel members. So it depends where each of those members of the scoring panel have determined that they have met that within the framework. And then, like I said earlier on, what happens is that the scores come together collectively, and then they're divided by the number of panel members there that have provided the scores, basically.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ingalls, were you looking to come back?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, for me, the scoring panel comments are what sort of pushes us in the direction of where we want to, or where we should be going, and I think that was the case in the past couple that we've looked at as well. But in this one here, because they're so positive and so supportive, I do wonder why the score's so low, and whether we as a committee need to look at this and recommend we give them the full application amount. I'd be interested to hear other members' views on that.
Is anybody else looking to come in? I don't see any hands or comments in the chat function at all, but the camera seems to be fixed on Councillor Ingalls at the moment. Oh, Councillor Scobie.
Yeah, Chair, I did move 100% that we award them. If David's prepared to second that, I'd be delighted.
Can you confirm that, Councillor Scobie? I didn't quite catch the start of your comment there.
I did move that we, given the circumstances, given where the council is at in terms of the representations and what we heard, the presentation that we heard from the ethnic minority only of late, I'm happy to move the 100% on this occasion.
Yeah, no, that's noted. Thank you. Councillor Surtees.
I would support that, Chair.
Okay, I'm happy to support that. Also, clearly the circumstances have moved rapidly in the last fortnight or so. And given the very nature of this project, which is supporting ethnic minorities within our communities, then I'm happy to go with that as well. Does anybody else wish to come in at this point? I think it is exceptional circumstances that is specifically relating to this particular application. Councillor Ingalls?
Yeah, the only concern I have is that we are overriding the scoring panel's recommendations. Having said that, I think, and it's been highlighted earlier today, that if we had a wee bit more information on how these recommendations come forward, then we wouldn't be in a position where we feel as if we're stepping on somebody's toes here. I know it's our decision, but at the same time, there's people taking time to vet these applications. But I'm happy to support Willie's motion. I think it's well worth the extra money.
Ingrid, are you able to confirm when the scoring panel met? I.e., did they meet prior to this catastrophe that is happening globally and will have an impact on services, right down to our local level? Or did they meet prior to that? Because obviously that is additional information that wasn't available to the scoring panel at the time.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. The situation in Afghanistan was not prevalent at that point in time.
Right. Jamie, I've got that you'd like to come in as well. The camera is on you.
Yeah, just where we've said previously that the budget is at members' discretion, and I think, where Councillor Ingalls is saying, in a sense, the discretion may go against the scoring panel decision. I think it's important just to provide a clarity of, that there's some material difference there. And I think the Chair's explanation and Councillor Scobie's that, the situation globally has changed and within Dumfries and Galloway in terms of support provided, need for support provided. I think that is a material change, and I think that's probably sufficient to justify a deviation, because the scoring panel is an agreed kind of council process, but I think it's legitimate to give that reason.
Thank you, Jamie. I do, yeah, I mean, as I said, there's been material changes in circumstances. So, I mean, I'm happy to go with that. So therefore, in terms of the application, W006, we would be looking to allocate the full award of £10,000 to that one. Are all members agreed on that one?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed.
Thank you. So that is in terms of looking at our recommendation, we have considered the scoring panel's recommendation and agreed decisions in terms of 2.3. We move on to 2.4, and that is to consider how we deal with the remaining poverty and inequalities budget, which in the paper states is £9,084. Clearly that's £2,500 less. I'm not sitting with a calculator and I'm managing two screens and various issues. So Ingrid, I'll let you tell us what that figure is. It does make reference in the report on 3.14 that we should consider how we wish to allocate this remaining budget, and that options could include opening small grant funds of up to £1,000, or we could retain the budget for later this financial year or carry the remaining budget over. My preference, and I think we have had precedent of this in the past where we've had funding rather than waiting and delaying. If members are happy, I would propose that we open the small grants funds of up to £1,000. I know in the past we have made decisions that can then be put to delegated authority, and therefore we wouldn't need to meet again, and there wouldn't be a delay in getting those really important, crucial funds out to those communities. But again, I would open it up to members so that they can put forward their thoughts on this. But Ingrid, how much are we looking for? And then I'll bring in members, please.
Based on my calculations, it's £6,548.
Thank you. Councillor Surtees, you've got your hand up.
I appreciate what you're saying, Chair, and I think it's really important that we get the money out to people that need it as soon as we can. So I would support your idea, and then obviously we would get a full report back.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else looking to come in on this one? Councillor Scobie.
Yeah, Chair, can you just clarify if you got that? I had my hand up and I assume or presume that Claire had typed my name in.
I have got, let's have a look
Before
here.
Councillor
Yes, I've got
Surtees, could you
Councillor
just clarify?
Scobie.
I'll not
Can
stand
Jamie
on
come
my
in?
dignity.
Jamie would like to come in. Councillor Scobie and Jamie would like to come in. So yes, I've got that now. There sometimes is a delay in those appearing and being typed.
So it was not before Councillor, you saw Councillor Surtees' hand.
I saw
will not stand on my
because
dignity.
Councillor Surtees is using the hand up function rather than the type speak.
Okay. Chair, just on 2.4, now that we've been clarified, that we have clarified the 6548, and given the content of the report that we have before us, there appears to be, in my opinion, some outstanding business from it in terms of discussion, dialogue and so forth, which may have altered an individual score. I would move that we defer the 6,548 and seek a further report on the outstanding business, the discussion, the dialogue, to see if that would change anything in terms of the report. It's not satisfactory to have outstanding business from a report, and I would move that, Chair, that we hold that till we get a further report on the outstanding issues that are contained within the report.
Sorry, Councillor Scobie, could you perhaps outline what those outstanding issues are?
It is very difficult for me to outline, Chair, given
I've
declared an interest. I think that members will just have to take me on my word and only to look at the report in terms of dialogue, perhaps discussions that need to take place on duplication and so forth. So therefore, that's why I'm asking that this be deferred for the further report to see if it would make any difference to any of the applications.
Okay, so as chair of the committee, I don't feel that there are any outstanding issues that are, or anything, you've not explained to me, Councillor Scobie, what you feel is outstanding issues from the report, but I will open it up to other members to come in. I have proposed that we open up the grant for £1,000, and that is delegated to officers in order to get the funds coming out. But I know that Jamie is looking to come in, so I'll bring yourself in, Jamie, and then I'll open it up to other members, please.
No, I'm absolutely fine, Chair. I think what I was going to say has been covered. Thanks. Thank
you. Do any other members wish to come in? I don't have anything written in the speak, and I don't see any hands popping up on my screen. Councillor McComb.
Thank you, Chair. My calculation is that it is 6,584, not 48. Is that correct, Chair?
84.
It's correct.
Yeah. It's a little bit more, and personally, I would prefer to retain the budget for later consideration in the financial year. We're only about halfway through the financial year at the moment.
Okay, can I just check at what point we would be looking to consider that? So I don't know if that's for members to decide or whether that sits with yourself, Ingrid, because my understanding is in terms of the forward plan and the allocated budget, we're working on the yearly cost. So we would want to get this, if we're going to allocate within this financial year, the money would need to be allocated by the end of March. And do we have any meetings and anything on the forward plan where we'll be looking to discuss this? So in terms of consideration for the financial year, the proposal that Councillor McComb has raised and maybe just even check with Councillor McComb, are you looking, Councillor McComb, to reopen the whole process, that we invite applications up to £10,000 and following the same criteria that we've done again? Or do we just hold it in case there's anything comes up in the future, but we're not inviting anybody for the future? Or how? I'm just looking for some clarity, please.
Thank you, Chair. No, I would not open it up to applications of £10,000. You've only got 6,584. However, I would retain it till later this financial year, and if there has been no pressure on that sum, then to make it available for applications.
Thank you. I'll just maybe refer back to Ingrid. Ingrid, how would we know if there's pressure on that fund or not if we're not opening up any applications for it? Because, you know, while I appreciate what Councillor McComb is saying is retaining it, but if we're just retaining it indefinitely with no plan of what we want to do with that money, it would be quite useful if there's a way that we know how we can allocate it. If we're not going to open it up to small amounts as suggested by myself, and that is still a motion that I've put forward, how would we get that money out the door? What are the options to members, please?
In both scenarios, the same would apply. We as ward officers and our colleagues within other sectors would be promoting the fact that that money was available. The option would be the next natural committee would obviously be in November, so any applications could be considered in the November meeting. Alternatively, if it was the £1,000 delegation, then that would obviously be delegated to the lead officer and could be allocated at any point in time. So it would depend on what members decide.
Thank you. So if there was applications, if we were to open up or put the information out, that organisations could apply for funds, and we can then consider that within the November area committee, would there be any specific criteria? Would we be following the existing criteria, or does that sit with members' discretion?
Thank you, Chair. The same criteria would apply. It's the same fund within the same financial year. So it would basically be that we would be highlighting the fact that amount of budget was available, and any interested organisation could certainly come forward for that. It would depend on what organisations come forward and what they were seeking. You know, obviously, members would have decisions to take at a future meeting if it was to go through that application process, as we've just done.
And can I just confirm that if we went through an application process for over the £1,000, which would we then have to reform the scoring panel, etc., to then come back with a decision?
For any allocations up to £1,000, it would be delegated to myself as lead officer, and I would be in contact with elected members from that particular ward, as we do with discretionary grants for monies over a certain amount, to make members aware that those expressions of interest, it would be at that stage that have been submitted, and we would look to seek members' thoughts on that before the allocation was made, but it would certainly be delegated to the lead officer.
And if it was over £1,000, would we then enlist the help of the scoring panel?
If it was over £1,000, we'd be back to the same process as we're in at the moment, yeah.
Okay, and can I just confirm, and I will bring other members in as well to find a way through this, the next area committee is November. We're the 1st of September. Is there adequate time to put out applications? Because how long would applications be allowed to open for? To then come back, to then form the scoring committee, to then pull together the report. Would there be adequate time to agree that process, that we would get a report back in November?
It could be done.
Opening up for over.
It would be very tight, would be my honest opinion.
Okay, no, thank you. Do any other members wish to come in? I'm sort of seeing one snapshot view of the committee room, but I don't see any other members looking to come in. I have proposed that we go for small allocations to get the money out the door and delegate 2 officers. I see you, David. Councillor McComb has suggested that we perhaps open this up, but David, do you want to come in, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It may well be the case that we'll have more available to hand out. So if Jim's proposal is a motion, then I would support that motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Scobie. I see you've got
Chair,
your hand up as well.
You accepted my motion that we defer the 6,584, Jim. 84, so that any outstanding business, and I will refer to the language in the sentiments in the report, the dialogue, duplication and any discussion that needs to take place, and to bring back a report in the November meeting. I would move that, Chair.
Do you have a seconder for that, Councillor Scobie?
I'll second it.
Okay, so Claire, I'm just conscious we've got 3 options on the table. There was the proposer by Councillor Scobie, which has now been seconded by Councillor Surtees to defer. We've got a proposal from Councillor McComb that we open it up, and we've got a proposal from myself that we follow the small grants and delegate to authority to yourself. I had thought Councillor Surtees had seconded my motion, but she appears to have seconded Councillor Scobie's motion. But Claire, I don't know if you've got a clear track of who's proposed what and how we deal with this. So I presume we work with the motion and a proposal, or do we go with the counter proposal or counter amendment and amendment? Can you maybe just give us some advice as to how we go forward with this? And I see Councillor Ingalls is waving his hand as well.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Usually when there's a procedural matter, if you're deciding whether to consider what you're going to do with the funds or whether you're going to defer the matter, then you would deal with that first, whether as a procedural matter. So same as like a planning applications committee where you're deciding whether you need a site visit or not. It's a procedural matter to get out of the way.
Okay.
Councillor
so we've
McComb
got.
would like to come in.
Yep, Councillor Ingalls.
Councillor McComb.
Oh, excuse me,
Chair,
Councillor McComb.
my proposal was to retain the budget for consideration later in the year, not to defer, because, as Ingrid stated, that information would be made available to the public, that money is currently being held.
Okay, so if I've got this correct, and Claire, please keep me right as my governance advisor. Shall we move? Do we need to move to a vote as to whether to defer or whether to retain and then decide how we retain that funding? And do we have a correct proposer and seconder for each of those options?
That's my understanding of it. Basically, we'd have a vote whether you defer consideration of what you're doing with the funds or whether you're looking at what you're going to do with those funds today. And then once you've decided that, then it would be your options for what to do with that money. Councillor Ingalls,
thank you. Councillor Ingalls.
Yeah, Chair. Can I call for a wee bit of clarity on exactly what Councillor Scobie's looking for, so that we're all absolutely clear on what Councillor Scobie is expecting to come back, or what review is being made, if that's what we're looking for?
Councillor Scobie, do you want to clarify your position?
To clarify yet again. Yeah, my motion is to defer any disbursement of the £6,584 until such times, no, until such time, I'll take that out, until the outstanding business of dialogue, duplication and any discussions that need to take place, can take place, and that we get a report back to the Wigtown Area Committee meeting in November. On the issues that are within the report that may alter the scoring of any of the applications.
Thank you. Claire, can we move to the vote, please? So we clearly have a motion. Well, I'll let you clarify what the motion and the amendment to that motion is, please.
Okay, right, we've got a motion. Apologies, I might get this probably round. But motion proposed by Councillor Scobie, seconded by Councillor Surtees, to defer consideration of what to do with the outstanding amount of 6,584 until there's outstanding discussions taking place with a report back to November. The amendment would be to consider the amount of 6,584 today, and that would be proposed by Councillor McComb. What?
Claire, my amendment was to retain the budget for consideration later this financial year. And that information would be conveyed to the public.
Okay, right, there was different options being discussed on what to do with the budget.
Claire, can I put forward a motion then, if we have, or an amendment, if we have a motion to defer the decision, can I put an amendment that we make a decision on how the £6,000 is allocated? And that would be my amendment to the motion that has been put forward by Councillor Scobie.
Okay, we've got a seconder, please. And then we could get on to what that actually means.
If there's no seconder, then obviously we will just take that as a motion going forward, and there'll be no decision made on what happens to that £6,000. So, yep, if there's no seconder,
there will be a decision. If that's the motion that's carried and there's no amendment, as you've just declared, that will be discussed in November.
Councillor Scobie, I will invite you to speak. I have not got access to the full room. I am asking governance if there's any seconder within the room. I've got one camera shot that is on the governance officer. If there is no seconder for my motion, or my amendment, excuse me, then that is fine. We will take that motion as the only motion and we'll move forward. But I'm just trying to clarify if there's any seconders. If you would like to come and speak, if you could indicate to Claire, she will speak in the chat function. So if there's no seconders, Claire, can you just confirm that we're agreeing with the motion?
Okay, yes, just to confirm, so everybody in the room is clear. It was just a procedural matter to deal with the motion to defer consideration of the 6,584, or I was looking to see if there was anybody propose an amendment to counter that the 6,584 and what would happen to that would be considered at this meeting, or whether you're going with the deferral. And then if you went to the vote on that, then you would look at what Councillor McComb was suggesting. So it's a
Claire,
matter.
Can I just
Point
confirm?
of order, Chair. Point of order.
I will come to you 1 second, Councillor.
Point of order, Chair.
Shouting out point of order. I will come to you in 1 second. Claire, I just want to confirm, please, if the motion is competent, because I'm not aware of what the outstanding business is in terms of the deferral. But Councillor Scobie, you do have a point of order. Which point of order is this, please?
Yeah, Chair. The point of order is that in standing orders, the motion was put. There was no second. There was no amendment seconded. Therefore, the motion stands, and we seem to be going round and round and round. And my motion was clear, and I said it more than once under clarity, and it's for the outstanding business of contained within the report, reference to dialogue, duplication, discussions, and for a report to come back to the November meeting. My motion was clear, and the wording's clear, and that's what has been agreed under standing orders. The motion was accepted The amendment did not find a seconder. Therefore, in your own words, Chair, you accepted the motion, carried and moved forward. It's not to be put to the vote now.
No, absolutely, Councillor Scobie. I just want to clarify what the outstanding business was, because you said yourself that you weren't in the meeting when that was discussed.
Chair, point of order
yes,
again.
Chair,
point of order.
Councillor Scobie.
The motion has been put by yourself.
Yes,
and it's been agreed there is no further discussion on the point as to what the motion was, and my motion was clear. There was no, and standing orders is clear. There is no further discussion.
Councillor Scobie, I appreciate you allowing me to speak, and I would appreciate if you don't cut across me. As the chair of this committee, I want to ensure that the decisions that are made are competent, and I wanted to confirm with the clerk, with Claire, who is here to offer us governance advice, is the motion competent? Because I wasn't aware that was specific outstanding issues from the report. However, if it's deemed competent, and this is why I'm looking to governance advice, this is why we have Claire in the committee meeting, this is why we have a clerk of committees, to ensure that the decisions we make are correct and right. So I am looking for, not for yourself to come back in, because as you say, you've repeatedly said the same issues, and I'm not looking for clarity, so I won't be taking you, but Claire, can you confirm that the motion is competent? If the motion is competent, the matter will be dealt with, and that is agreed on 2.4, and we'll move on to the next item of business. I'm not looking for you to come in
Point of
at
order,
this point.
Chair.
You've made a point of order. Do you have a second point of order?
This is my third point of order. The business was conducted as per standing orders. There should be no further discussion on it. You accepted the motion. It is wrong to go back now and try and manipulate that by asking was it competent. You accepted it as competent and put it your amendment for someone who may wanted to second it. There was no vote because there was no amendment seconded. It's clear there should be no further discussion, and we move on. Standing orders.
It may be clear to yourself, Chair, excuse me, Councillor Scobie, it may be very clear to yourself. I'm looking for that advice. I will bring Councillor McCammon in, but Claire, as the governance officer, can you just confirm with a simple yes or no, is the motion competent, and we can move on with this?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean, clearly there's two members who feel there was additional information outstanding.
Okay, thank you. That's all I was looking for, that there was the motion was competent. So we have determined that. It is agreed that we will defer the item. Councillor McCammon, we have agreed that. We've accepted the motion. We are moving on, but I would invite you to come in if you do have a comment. I don't want to open this up to a big debate, and I now see Councillor McComb's hand coming in off the side of the camera.
No, sorry,
Councillor McCammon.
Sorry. Yeah, Chair, I appreciate your comments, but I agree with Councillor Scobie. The motion was agreed. You then put in another motion. So if it was questionable, it should have been done at the start before you did it. That's my opinion. I also feel like as Chair, you're having a lot more say than anybody else. So it's not the way I expect a meeting to go. And I kind of again agree with Councillor Scobie that you're trying to be influential with your opinion on a lot of matters that we've discussed so far. So I agree with you. Let's close this and move on, because it has been quite outstanding, the performance.
Absolutely, Councillor McCammon. And just to confirm, I've had one request from yourself to speak at 11:25. I've had no other requests that you wish to come in written in the chat function. I don't feel that I'm following the standing orders. We've made a decision. If you have a complaint about the way I'm handling this committee, then there are processes for you to put forward, but I do not accept that I am overbearing in this committee and taking advantage of the chair. I am following the chat function, as I said at the start of the meeting, and that chat function, that chat discussion is available for all the members to see. And I only have one other point that we're looking to come in. I see now on the chat function that you're looking to come back again. I'm not looking for this to be taken over. We do have business to get on with. I know Councillor McComb is looking to come in as well, and I've I want to make sure that everybody has their voices heard. But if there's a point that you want to come back on, feel free to come back. The floor is yourselves.
So I don't want to make any complaint, but I did think that it was my right as an elected member to pass comment on such thing, and just because you're a chair doesn't mean to say that I'm not allowed to comment. I don't have a complaint, it was simply an observation.
Thank you. Councillor McComb.
Chair, as far as I'm aware, I made a proposal that the budget be retained for consideration later this financial year, and that information be conveyed to the public. That proposal was seconded by Councillor Ingalls.
Councillor McComb, I'm working on the governance advice, and the governance advice I was given was that we would have to first of all, before looking at the details of how we allocated the funding, was whether we were to take the funds or defer. And the governance advice was that we had to determine whether we deferred the item or not. The motion was put forward, it was considered competent, there was no counter motion or there was no amendments put into that particular motion, so then it was agreed and passed. But again, I will go back to governance to confirm that that is a correct and accurate recollection of what has just happened in the last 10-15 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. As I outlined earlier, we do have a vote on a procedural matter as to whether to defer an item, go for a site visit, that sort of adjourn the meeting. You would take that first, and then you would go into any votes on what you wanted to do with that. So that's what I was trying to, and I wasn't trying to lead anybody, but we had a motion proposed by Councillor Scobie, seconded by Councillor Surtees to defer consideration and for it all to come back to November pending that outstanding information. To go against that, what the advice I was given was then you should have a motion, an amendment to basically that they would consider what you would do with that funds today, as in, for example, at planning, you go for a site visit, or you're going to consider the matter today, then you go into what you do with that money.
I'm afraid we have agreed the motion, and as Councillor Scobie quite rightly pointed out, the decision has been made. So I would just recap in terms of item 7. We noted the funding, we noted the eligibility and criteria, we considered the allocations and made decisions appropriate, and in terms of 2.4 we considered and we deferred as to how the remaining budget of the anti-poverty and tackling inequalities grant funding for 2021-2022 should be decided. So that item, that 2.4 has in fact been deferred to come back to the next meeting. I'm not going to open it up to any further debate because I think we're in danger of going round in circles, and as Councillor Scobie quite rightly pointed out, a decision has been made on that. So we will move on to item number 8, which is the A77 Dalrymple Street access to medical centre. Sorry, David Ingalls.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. My reading of this, and I could be wrong, but I'm sure you'll correct me, is that Councillor McComb has put forward that the money would be made available later in the year and the public would be made aware of that. Councillor Scobie's motion was that the money would not be made available to the public until such times as a report came back on the content of the papers that we've got in front of us today. Now, it seems to me there's a clear definition between the two. We either make it available to the public or we don't make it available to the public until we get the reports back from Councillor Scobie's concerns, and I think that's where we are with the vote. Am I correct?
Claire, do you want to confirm? As I say, I do not wish to go over and over the same discussion points. There was a motion to defer. I put in an amendment that we consider the item so we could then hear those discussions that Councillor McComb had put forward. I didn't have a seconder, So therefore, the item was deferred. But Claire, if you can make it any clearer for members, then that would be helpful. Otherwise, I will move on to the next item. And we do have Tony Topping here to speak to item number 8. So if there's any other clarity that's required that you can provide us, Claire, then I'd be willing to hear it. Otherwise, I'll move on to item number 8.
Okay, yes, so thank you, Chair. You did put forward an amendment to consider the matter today, which would have allowed discussion of what to do with that budget, but didn't receive a seconder for that to happen. But Councillor McCall wanting back in.
To be fair, I think I'm going to draw a line. Members have had plenty of opportunity to discuss this. We have had standing orders raised 3 times by Councillor Scobie that a decision has been made. I think the decision has been made that we're going to defer and get a report coming back in November. I don't feel it's going to be helpful or we're going to come to any other conclusion by continuing this debate. So I am going to move on to item number 8 and use my discretion as the chair. Apologies to those members if they feel that that is not correct, but I'm following the rules that are stated in front of me. Item number 8. We have got the report in front of us.
Chair, sorry, point of order.
Yes, point of order.
I would like my dissent recorded, please. I don't agree with that decision.
Okay.
Chair,
have you got a note
I
of
would
that?
like my dissent recorded as well.
And can I ask what you're... Okay, so in order to resolve this, I've got 3 members of the committee who have a point of order to counteract the point of order that has already been made. Councillor Scobie has raised the point of order that we've made the decision and we should move on. Can I ask which standing orders that the 3 other members are referring to? Because absolutely, you are welcome to raise a point of order, but which aspect of the councillor's standing orders are you referring to? So that can be recorded in the minutes.
Yeah, Chair, we have 2 clear proposals with clear definition between the 2, and with 2 seconders. In my view, there should be a vote.
Which standing orders, though, are you referring to that there's been a breach of the standing orders of the committee? Because a point of order has been raised. I would like to know which point of order that is, and then clarity from the clerk as to how we proceed. I want to make sure that the decisions that we're making are following our standing orders, and if I'm not following the standing orders, I would like that to be made clear as to which standing order I am not following.
Can I just ask governments if they can help me in that?
Okay, thank you. Yes. I mean, as I've outlined, our standing orders outlined that votes on procedural matters, as I've said a few times, always get taken first. It makes it easier when you then go into looking at the detail of what would happen. If I wasn't clear in putting that forward, because I can't think of another time at Wigtown Area Committee where there's been a procedural vote and we've got into this level of detail. I just can't think of one. The people haven't been clear by not supporting I'm only interested in fairness and doing it properly and being fair to everyone. So if I've not made it clear by not supporting the amendment to consider this item today, then it would be deferred and moved on. Then I mean we're still in the item. We haven't moved on. We're still in item 7.
So can I, Claire, perhaps ask those members that are wanting to raise a standing order? The standing orders are published on Dumfries and Galloway website. They were agreed on the 25th of June 2020. If there's a standing order item on there that refers to how we conduct our business, if I have not followed those standing orders, or if there's a concern that those have been breached, could I please reiterate once again that the 3 members who wish to record their dissent, can I ask them to identify which standing order their dissent relates to? I've got nobody in the chat function coming in.
Chair.
Councillor McComb.
2 distinct proposals were put forward and seconded. A vote should have taken place. It did not, or has not.
And has been clarified by the clerk, and I am going on the information that's been provided to me by the clerk, that we had to determine whether the item was deferred or whether it was not deferred first. The members' proposals that were put forward were deemed by the clerk to not be part of the initial vote. That is the information that was given at the time. So we moved forward because the decision was made to defer. That is the final decision that has been taken place. I'm confused as to what the lack of clarity is on this issue, because it was very clear that we had to determine whether we deferred the item or not, and that it was agreed to defer the item. Therefore, because the item was deferred, we could therefore no longer discuss as to how we allocated. And I appreciate that your proposal was wanting to go to a vote, but because we had already determined that the item would be deferred, under advice and governance advice from the clerk, then that is what has happened. If you had wanted to discuss this and put forward your motion, then I would have invited you to second my amendment, but nobody came forward to second the amendment in order to move to that second vote. Therefore, as Councillor Scobie raised 3 times, we needed to determine the deferral, and that was determined. There was no amendment, or there was no seconder to my amendment. As I say, we can look back at the recording of this and we will make sure that it is minuted correctly, and then we will have an opportunity to defer at the next meeting, or not defer at the next meeting, to continue the discussion as to how we allocate that £6,000 at our next meeting in November. I don't have anybody else coming in. I'm looking at the chat function. There's no other hands raised electronically. I can't see any hands raised in the room, and there's nothing in the chat function that anybody would like to come back on. So if members are content, we shall move on to item 8.
You've got Councillors Ingalls and Scobie both would like to speak, Chair.
Can you
just
confirm, Claire,
clarification,
who
I
had
saw,
their hand
Chair,
up first, because I've not got it in the chat function. Members, Councillor Scobie, Councillor David Ingalls.
It's clarification, Chair. I don't know how often you're going to say we're moving on to item 8. Are we?
Well, I am attempting to move on,
are
but
we in item 8?
Members.
We've dealt with items. Are we in item 8?
I am trying to move us on to item 8. Yes, Councillor Ingalls, is there any other points that you wish to raise before we can finally move on to item 8, please?
Yeah. My apologies, Chair. I must have misunderstood your amendment. I was under the impression that when you said that you were going to deal with this today, your view was that this should be handed down to be dealt with through delegation. And that was the reasoning behind my not supporting that.
Well, that's noted. Yes, I did put forward that motion to begin with. However, we were on the procedure matter, and I believe I was very clear that I was looking for us to determine how that £6,000 was allocated. We can perhaps look back at the recording and perhaps there's lessons to be learned as how do we deal with this in the future. It is a learning curve. Every day is a school day and all those acronyms. However, we have made that decision. If it wasn't clear, I think that's something that we look back on and we can possibly reflect, and the recording will be made available at the end of this committee. So I would like to draw a line under this, and let's move on to item 8, please. So let's start again with item 8, please. A77 Dalrymple Street, access to medical centre, and A77 Edinburgh Road, Stranraer, public notice provision of road humps. We do have Tony Topping here to speak to this report, and members have obviously got the report and the various appendices attached to that. Tony, I would just say thank you for waiting for this item, and is there anything that you wish to add at this point, please?
Nothing further to add at the moment, Chair. I'm just happy to accept any questions from the members.
Thank you. Members, I'll open it up to any discussion, please. I'm just looking, I've got, Claire, can I just confirm, I've got Ingalls and Scobie. Is that for this item that you typed those details in for, or is that for the previous item?
That was the previous item. We've got Councillor Scobie and McComb with their hands up for this item.
Okay, I'm going to assume that they went up in those orders, so I will go to Councillor Scobie, please.
Yeah, Chair, the report's long outstanding. I think it goes dates away 2000 and maybe before, well before Tony's time, that there was concern with Dalrymple Street and the particular junction. So the report's well outstanding, and welcome the report and the work that's considered. Just move approval, Chair, for the report.
Thank you, Councillor Scobie. Councillor McComb.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I would like to know what the primary purpose of these humps actually is. Is it to assist people crossing the road, or is it to reduce vehicle speeds?
Tony, can you come in with that one?
Yes. Thank you, Councillor. Yep, I think you've answered your own question there. It does have a it covers both functions actually. It's actually raised so that for vulnerable users such as partially sighted, perhaps parents with prams, it has been raised so you're coming off the kerb flat. There's no step or drop, so that allows you straight access across the junction. And I think I mentioned in my report the scheme came about from a partially sighted gentleman that lives in the town centre that regularly walks out to the Waverley Medical Centre, and I accompanied him one day on his walk to see the problems that he faced. So yes, in the first instance, it's raised sort of more for comfort for crossing, and the fact that it is an actual hump. It will have the shark's teeth warning on the humps that vehicles approaching it will automatically slow down. I mean, it is a junction anyway, they're going to be slowing, but it's a common feature that we use for both traffic calming and to improve comfort and accessibility when crossing these sort of junctions.
Councillor McComb, were you looking to come back again?
So, Tony, there is visible warning to drivers that the hump is there.
Yes, the warning itself is in the shark's teeth, large white markings on the approach to the humps. We decided not to go with warning road hump signs. Basically, we are trying to reduce sign clutter on our local roads, and in these sort of isolated instances, people are slowing down anyway. It's a 100 mil upstand to the same height of the kerb. But yes, and the other fact is we're putting red texture surfacing across it, so that will also make it stand out to approaching motorists.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Ingalls, you're looking to come in, please.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. the identification of these humps in general throughout, our ward or throughout the region is sometimes becomes a wee bit blurred or worn. In particular in the Minigaff school area, you find people parking on them. Now, I don't know if there's some way that we can highlight that these are crossing points rather than just, and speed humps, rather than just somewhere where people can just jump up and park on the side of them. It's just a general observation, Tony, but maybe something that you could have a think of.
Thank you, Councillor Ingalls. Yes, I think, Tony, are you able to comment on that one? Because it is a problem. I've seen it myself,
yes,
and I would agree with Councillor Ingalls.
It is. We know that, especially in Minigaff, I've seen it myself, people will park on the humps. Apart from just regular maintenance and trying to keep on top of the actual painting of the markings for these, I can't think really what else we can do apart from look at if there are particular areas where it's a problem. We could look at then introducing weighting restrictions, i.e. the double yellow lines. So if you've got any maybe locations in particular, Councillor, I'd be quite happy to have a look next time I'm visiting Newton Stewart.
I think you mentioned the ones in Minigaff and at the school, and those are the ones that really stand out for me, Tony.
Thanks. I think if we could take that on and Tony come back and maybe liaise with all the ward members, that would be really helpful. So thank you. I don't have any other members indicating that they wish to speak in my chat function. So if we're happy, we can move to the recommendations. The recommendation is to consider 2.1, the representations, consider the responses in 2.2. 2.3 is to note the further correspondence and then agree to implementation of the road humps in 2.4. Councillor Scobie has already moved that we agree these. I'm quite happy to second that. Unless I've got any alternatives, we'll agree the recommendations.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. And moving on to the final item of the agenda this morning, we have got the road network management street naming, and it's the development of Harbour Terrace, Drumore, and we're being asked to agree Harbour View as the preferred names of the new road associated with the development. I don't know if there's anything that we are looking to add to the report. We've got officer here. I'm just looking to see Coulthart. I'm not sure of your first name, Ms. Coulthart, but if there's anything that you want to add to the report.
Thank you, Chair. It's Caris Coulthart. I've got nothing to add to my report, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Scobie, I've got that you're looking to come in, please.
It's been a long day. I'm sure everybody's wanting away. Just move agree the recommendations. It's what the people want.
Yep, unless we've got any alternatives, we will do such a thing. Yep, okay.
I agree.
So, thank you, Councillor Surtees. So I have no other business for the agenda. I've not been notified of any urgent business, so I will close the meeting today. And thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Chair.
Safe travels home, folks that are in the room. Thank you.